Hello and welcome to the gallery. My name is Jon and tonight we are painting up a dice tower. A fair few months ago, a friend of mine gave me this dice tower, and it's kind of rudimentary. It's just basic bricks and nothing fancy going on about it. However, it has great potential. So this week I'm going to paint it up really quickly, adding a little bit of depth just with using shades and different types of paints, and just getting it a little bit nicer looking so it's more worthy of my magnificent dice. Here we have the base of the dice tower, and as you can see, it's quite rough, the plastic that was used. It's got a lot of lines in it, but we're not going to worry too much about that. We're going to start by gluing the two things together so it's one continuous whole. Then we're going to put some texture paint on it, which is quite rough. I use it for a lot of bases. It's much cheaper than the Citadel stuff, but a lot more of it. And we're just going to put that down here and there, and quite a lot of it. This will dry black, but we're still gonna use the surface primer again on the base just to get that nice solid color going, so there's no difference between the primer. Then we're adding a little bit of white into the primer and zenithal highlighting, and ever increasing more and more white into it just to get some starting point to work from. And once this has dried, the base and the primer and everything, then we're going to mainly do this with shades and contrast paints and tones and washes. But first, to get even more interest going, we're going to dry brush more white on the base. We're not using the Vallejo white because that's an airbrush white and it's quite thin. We're using the matte white from Army Painter. It's much thicker. It's quite fun to dry brush with it. It is quite a rough paint and it dries really nicely, really matte. I love that paint. And we're just dry brushing the entire thing just to get some more interest. And then we start by putting down some shades. And this is mostly done with washes and shades, just to have some natural feel to it. We're starting with Army Painter Strong Tone. We're adding a little bit of airbrush medium to it, just to thin it out a little bit, and it'll go down very nicely. We'll start with that, just really on the lower parts to make it look like it's all muddy and old and decrepit, adding a little bit more interest to the model. And once that has dried, we're going to thin out some Athonian Camo shade, and we're going to do the same thing, just focusing here and there, splotching it wherever we feel like it, getting some mossy feel to it. Nothing that we're doing is complicated. All of it is really quick, but it gives us a nice look that will be much more interesting than just the white plastic that I had to begin with. And we are not putting a little bit of wash. We're putting a lot of it. We're adding a lot of interest to this model. Well, this dice tower. I mean, I have it on the table when I'm playing Warcry and stuff like that, so I want it to look a little bit nice. And now for all the bits between the bricks, whatever you call them, I can't remember at the moment, I'm putting in Basilicum Grey, added with a little bit of contrast medium, and again with a little bit of airbrush medium, just so it flows a little bit better. And I'm putting that into all the crevices. This is the most time-consuming part. Well, time-consuming in regards to painting, waiting for the washes to dry. That takes its time, of course. And it'll immediately look a lot better once everything is clearly defined like this. Now, for the inside of the dice tower, I want it to look like a big pool of blood. I don't know why, I just felt like it should. So I'm really pouring in the red paint. Start out with a little bit of flat red from Vallejo. It pours quite nicely, and I just brush that here and there, get some sort of coat going, and this is thick. This took a long time to dry. And then while it's still wet, I add a little bit of black red and just splotch it about to make it like it's a little bit darker here and there, like the blood is drying here and there. And it looks quite disgusting. So I'm adding a little bit more of the flat red on top of the dark red and just mixing it a little bit more, getting a little bit more extra feel. Does it look perfect? No. Does it have to? No. It's a dice tower, and it should be just a little bit more fun to look on. Once it's dried, I'm dry brushing it. I'm not dry brushing it. I'm brushing it with a little bit of gloss varnish. Well, quite a lot of gloss varnish. I put 2 or 3 coats because the dice will be rolling in there quite often, quite a lot, and we don't want them to get tainted by the color or this to get scratched or anything to that effect. And here we have the dice tower, ready for the table. It's a lot better than the white plastic I had before, and it'll not look out of sorts on the Warhammer Warcry table or next to my character sheet playing D&D or whatever you want to do with a dice tower. Mainly throw dice, I'm guessing. Thank you very much for joining me here today. There are links in the description for all kinds of stuff, social media and various tidbits. You do with it what you will, like, share and subscribe and let the colors flow. But until next time, farewell.